Before we get started on this lecture, please click the All button over here on the Hue, Saturation, and Luminance panel. That way we have access to the full range of image adjustments. The hue setting represents a shade of color. Essentially, with a hue adjustment, you can adjust a specific color or a range of colors. Let's see what would happen if I move the red slider to the right. You probably noticed that there wasn't much of a change at all. That's because almost all the colors in an image are made up of different colors. Since there aren't many shades of the color red in this image, making an adjustment to the red hues alone produces no change. Now let's see what would happen if we targeted more relevant colors like green, aqua, or blue. We'll start with blue. We can see that the sky behind the statue is clearly a blue sky. And for that reason, when we've adjusted the hue for the blue slider, there is a dramatic shift in the color tone of the sky. Moving the blue slider to the right produces a more purple tone, whereas moving it to the left produces a more greenish tone. As you probably guessed, targeting the green and aqua tones will likely have the most profound effect on the statue. So let's go ahead and adjust those. Okay, so not too much of green. Now let's go ahead with aqua, and we can see a much more dramatic shift of colors. The saturation adjustment is intended to increase or decrease the intensity of a specified color or range of colors. For example, if we wanted to make the greens in our statue more intense, we could slide the green slider towards the right. So this is before and this is after with the saturation adjustment. Now there wasn't much of a dramatic impact, so we may need to target the aqua colors as well. Now we can see a much more significant change. To produce the opposite effect and remove greens or aquas, we would move these two sliders to the left. Now remember, because there's a lot of aqua in this image, removing all the aqua gives us almost a grayscale image. Now the last adjustment here is luminance, and luminance is the brightness of a color. So for example, our statue has many greens and aquas. If we wanted to darken these color tones, we could move the green and aqua sliders here to the left. To achieve the opposite effect and brighten these color tones, we could move the sliders to the right. So far, we've worked with making hue, saturation, and luminance adjustments by targeting different color shades, such as greens, blues, reds, and so on. In some cases, you need to target much more specific colors. In this lesson, we'll do exactly that. Instead of adjusting several sliders to find the right colors to target, we'll use the color picker found at the top left corner of each one of these panel groups. Please click the Reset button before we continue to go back to our original image. Now say we wanted to adjust the color of only the tones found in the statue. Let's go ahead and click on the color picker next to the hue panel and hover your mouse over the statue. As you hover your mouse over the statue, look what's happening in your hue adjustment panel. Lightroom begins to highlight the color sliders which match the specific color that your color picker is on. So for example, the sky is blue, so our blue slider is highlighted. When I go to green or aqua, those two sliders get highlighted. Now to make adjustments to this specific color, click and hold your left mouse button down. From there, drag your mouse button either up or down, and you'll notice that the sliders automatically start moving. And not only that, but we've targeted a very specific color that we were interested in. So now we're no longer working with entire ranges using only the sliders. We're targeting a specific color of our choosing. If I wanted to target the blue, for example, I could do the same. The same method here can be used for the saturation and luminance. So I'm going to go ahead and click the color picker for saturation this time, and I'm going to increase the saturation of the statue. So you can do it, see it does a great job, and it's easier than trying to play around with the sliders to get the effect that you're looking for. And lastly, I'll do luminance as well. If you feel the HSL adjustment panel is a bit overwhelming, you can also switch to a more simplified version by clicking the Color tab. Here, you can specify which color range you'd like to target and adjust the HSL settings using these sliders here. So for example, if I wanted to affect the hue, saturation, and luminance of the red tones, I could do so by positioning these sliders. You can also narrow down the panel even further by clicking on any one of these colored squares. So if you only want to target green, just click on green, or red, and so on. Click the All button if you want to restore all the options. And then we have the black and white panel, and that'll of course turn your image black and white. And then you can play around with each color within this image using the sliders once again, or the color picker. Now I'll go ahead and click off the color picker, and we'll just go ahead and reset this image. You're welcome to experiment a little bit more, but we'll see you in the next lecture.